What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. Yeah, with your boy, Mike Goodwin, the bow-tied comedian. As I start each and every episode, primarily with a segment that I call On the Road Again. Now, if you've been following my saga, you will be very aware that I made one of the biggest faux pas, errors of my career on February the 1st. My pastor does this all the time. He's in a new sermon, but he re-preaches the old sermon because he goes back and makes the points. He doesn't re-preach. He just gives you two sermons in one. No. However, if you are not aware, I missed the show. Straight up. Missed the show. Straight up. People are there. It's the correct night. Tickets are sold. No Mike Goodwin. Right? Never, ever have done that. I think the closest I've ever gotten to something to that regard, I missed the connection going to Vegas. It's one of the first time I've been to Vegas. I haven't been to Vegas a lot, especially to perform. Missed the connection going to Vegas, and I guess, especially at this time, there was like one flight to Vegas. It was like a morning flight, an afternoon flight, and maybe an evening flight. I missed the morning flight, and then the next time was an afternoon flight, which would not work. So I ended up having to get shuttled to Charlotte, caught a flight. But in that instance, I literally was getting out of the Uber, put my bags in the back of the room, and like walked on stage. Like I had to leave Columbia in what I was going to be wearing on stage because that was what type of time frame I had. And there's so many bad things that went awful with that show. That was that was not a good situation. And it's been years. I can't even, that might have been 08, 10, it's been years, but I can remember. So I've never missed a gig, never been out here in places where like not where I'm supposed to be. I've done the things, like I've made the shows, I've been on time. Even if we had to like, hey, we're gonna do a little longer, and I can't even remember anything like that. I think I'm typically there an hour before I'm supposed to be there. Most times people want you to be there 4 hours before you're supposed to be there, especially when you're starting off. When you starting off, man, they have no regard for your time. Like there's 100 things I'd rather be doing than sitting in this green room waiting for the event tonight. All that being said, the actual show that I was going to the wrong location happened this past week. So the first time I was supposed to be in Burlington, North Carolina, I was on my way to Bristol, Tennessee. Well, this was the actual show in Bristol, Tennessee. Bristol, Tennessee is very unique also because it's two cities, well, two states, one city. So there's Bristol, Tennessee, then there's Bristol, Virginia, and it's across the street. Matter of fact, I was super concerned about getting there, getting to the right location, being there on time, all those things, right? But I went and looked at the Paramount Theater, which was the theater, and I looked at accommodations. So oftentimes they would recommend places that are in the area. So when I was looking for my hotel, I saw they recommended the Bristol Hotel. And they said it was walking distance. It was just a short walk to the theater. I was like, okay, let's do that. I'll book it. Then the next day I go to put the address in my GPS and it says Bristol, Virginia. And so I kind of a little bit freaked out. Like I knew that they both were the same city, but it's still to feel like, man, I'm going to Tennessee, but they give me a Virginia address. It's a little weird, but it's literally, you can stand in the street and you're in both. If one foot is on one side of the line and one foot is on the other side of the line, you can be both in Tennessee and Virginia. Great night. And what I've noticed, what I've realized, even as I've been like this year, I don't know if it's because my father passed. I'm super reflective. I'm the type of guy that would typically, I'm looking at the next thing. What's the next thing? What is the move? What's the play? What am I trying to, what am I taking all my momentum into? And right now I'm at a point where I'm really grateful because I'm doing the thing. Like when you watch a movie, you watch it and there's a climax. So let's say the movie or the goal of the movie, or this whole movie centered around winning a state championship. Well, the way you win a state championship is you start that particular season. Like you got to play the first game of that season. Like you don't just go to the state championship. And I feel like I'm in that part of the story. I'm in the part of the story that's the path towards the state championship. Like I'm literally doing what I have often prayed for, often what I've spoken, what I've desired. I'm executing it. I'm doing it. I'm booked at very great opportunities. I'm selling tickets in clubs and theaters for people to come and see my shows. I'm creating content that people are consuming and sharing, and I got a podcast and all the things. Like it's literally going down. And I don't know if I've ever been in places of awareness in times past, like, oh man, this is the thing. I oftentimes celebrate it at the championship level. Once we got the championship, oh man, I worked hard. I got this result. But now I'm like, I'm in the life. Like I'm in the game. One thing is similar. I think about like the civil rights movement, like the things that we watch historically. I wonder if they ever thought that, hey man, being in this committee meeting, marching across this bridge, like this is historical. This is the thing that people will look back and reflect upon for years. So that's why I feel like I'm so good. Like I'm so like not satisfied and definitely not content, but definitely able to enjoy the moments and all the things that are happening. In saying that, Bristol, Tennessee was a great night. The night was great. The hotel was great. The city is great. Most times I don't have the ability to spend time in the city, and I didn't have a large amount of time to do that. But I was able to, my walk from the hotel to the theater. I ended up having dinner at a spot downtown, or in the area that I guess they would call downtown. And it was like, I think there's a term that like the young folks say nowadays, like gatekeeping. Like people, I got a buddy like that, like the Keith Lee effect. If you don't know who Keith Lee is a guy on social media, food reviewer. So he goes to these places, he does a review, and if he likes your food, like people are gonna come swarm your building. They're gonna come, and most times they're places that people aren't as aware of that they should be. They're kind of like the best kept secrets, right? I don't want to be. I want to be like Keith Lee. I want to like blow something up. I want to give people information like, hey, Bristol Hotel. So if you're looking for a romantic getaway, I think the Bristol Hotel would be perfect for my wife and I. We do our quarterly getaways. I even think it would be great at the end of the year. We do like end of the year review, planning for the next year. Definitely one of those spots. Even the folks there were saying it is even something great for bringing the entire family. Now, I don't know if I would bring the entire family instead of the Bristol Hotel, but they were telling me about a musical festival that happens in Bristol. It's a pretty big deal. They had this great bakery that I spent way too much of my money at. Wait, it wasn't even the money. It's the calories I spent there. I got a couple of bring home boxes that threw me off my charted course a little bit, but that's regular life. But it's a place that I love. Like, and I don't know, maybe I'm a small town guy. I'm from Camden, South Carolina. Matter of fact, there's a new restaurant in Camden. If you're in the area, B. Colston. It's I think it's like a steak, seafood, and bourbon type place. Me and my wife went the day before Valentine's Day. all the holidays seem the same to me. Day before Valentine's Day, I recommend it. I mean, it didn't blow my socks off, but it was great. It had like a Gatsby-esque feel, like the Roaring Twenties is what they're shooting for. So it was cool. I enjoyed it, but I really liked Bristol, and I've been to Bristol before, but I think before I went with my guy John Chris, and I was at like a middle school, and it was a weird scenario because I had like a bag of all my T-shirts, merch, and I was one of maybe 2.5 black people in the whole thing. Like, and I'm telling jokes but I doubt that there were a large number of constituents from the African American community. Right, I had this big bag, and I'm in the lobby, and I don't know if somebody informed the security that I had this big bag or something, but it wasn't anything that became blown out of proportion, but it was a like, hey sir, are you in the right place kind of thing. It was like, yeah, I'm doing this show tonight and I'm selling T-shirts that are in this big bag. And maybe I think somebody may have confused the bag for like a bomb or so. It's kind of vague, but it was a little weird experience. So I hadn't had a check mark beside Bristol. Now I can erase the asterisks and I can put a check mark because I had a great time. I think it would be a perfect staycation, like a little getaway. My only caveat to that is I don't enjoy the pressure that the mountains put on your vehicle. So you can feel, you drive through Asheville in that area, the mountains put a little pressure on your car. But once you get through that, get to Bristol, I think it'd be well worth the trip. So Bristol is definitely a spot that I shall return just on my own accord. Even if they were to have me back to perform, I would be more than delighted to go back. But I also I could see myself spending a weekend there with my wife and having a great time. Shouts out to Bristol, Tennessee. I think Burlington is another place. I mean, I'm really loving these small town vibes. Burlington, I want to give a shout out to Bristol. Also want to give a shout out to Aiken, South Carolina, the Wilcox Theater. Not theater, hotel. I might have mentioned them before, but they are definitely, if you haven't been to the Wilcox, I would highly recommend it. There's another place in Highlands, North Carolina called the Old Edwards Inn. Oh my goodness. Big fans of that. 2 thumbs up. a hip hip hooray for the Edwards Inn and Highlands. Same thing though. The roads get a little, when you get close to the Highlands, they're in the mountains. So you get on this little strange path and becomes very tedious if you're not there at a certain time of day. Like if you're driving up there at night, it can be a little bit concerning. But separate from sans these little, these 30 minutes of being on this drive, those are places that I highly recommend. And I'm a big I think about the time we spent in Costa Rica. I like the resort life, right? It can feel a little cruise shippy to me. Now, I haven't been on a lot of cruise ships, and I'm not knocking cruise ships because I the ones I've been on, I've enjoyed. But there is a kind of like the food after a minute, like it's all kind of tastes the same. There's a lot of it, but it's like, it's I don't even really know how to describe it. I can remember being on this cruise, and we had to put on a jacket and a button-up shirt, and you do all these things, and the food was like, come on, man, y'all. We and it wasn't bad food. It just wasn't, I don't know. It's cruise. It's a cruise, so I don't know. I haven't been on a cruise that the food's knocked me off of my feet. Now I spent too much time getting the pizza slices and getting the olives and cheeses and stuff like that. But anytime you sit like in a formal scenario, I feel like sometimes the resort and cruise food. I was trying to think of the fancy word. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's CUL, culinary. The culinary options aren't impressive, overly impressive, right? But shout out to small towns that I enjoy. Now for the part of the segment of the podcast that we've all been waiting for. It's the best advice ever. This is one I've had kind of in the holster, and then something else jumped in front of it, but I had this thought. It's been a few weeks, but there's something that I think is very important for the best advice ever, and it's simply exploit your strength, man. Exploit your strength. If you're good at something, do that, man. I don't know. Maybe it's my generation. Where we say things to people like, oh, they're one trick ponies, one hit wonders, all that. It's a hit though. Like if there's a song that people love and you make songs like that, keep making those songs, right? But for whatever reason, man, I'm in this. I'm not. There's no separation from this advice. Do the thing that you do the best. I often tell people this advice that I learned from John Maxwell years ago, and it's basically make your 7 and 8s, 9s and 10s. Like focus on your strengths. Like make your strengths exemplary, excellent, magnanimous. We did some taping last night for this concert, the Auntie Karen concert, and we do this Real Husbands of Columbia skit before they, that's kind of opens the show. And Akatunde used the word magnanimous. I was like, ooh, I gotta throw that magnanimous in there a little bit more often. But exploit your strengths, man. If you're good at something, lean into that. Lean into that. And I don't know, man, people try to make you feel crazy because he can only dribble with his right hand. Well, you can't stop me though. Like, of course, you need to develop and you need to not be so predictable. But if the thing that you do that's predictable and nobody can stop it, then do that. Like, okay, you're predictable, but you're not stopping me. I'm getting success. I think about this young man that my sister dated, and I ended up going and playing basketball with this guy. And funny guy, man. Like, that's a very interesting perspective, because this is your sister and you want your sister to be in healthy relationships. I don't think this guy was the best guy, but he presented well. He looked the part. He said the things, but no substance, right? Well, we went and played basketball one day. After all this, like a bunch of like, your brother, I take your brother and all that, a lot of yammering, right? And this was some years ago, because if somebody told me they could take me on the court today, they could have that. You have at it. I might play you in a game of horse. That might give you that. I would definitely give you the Frankie Fun Park shooting situation. I've shut some few people down in that, but getting out on the court, D'ing up 1-on-1. Hey, man, I told my Achilles back in the day, I ain't fooling with you. You got it, big boy. You got it, playboy. But this particular time, I had the time and we had the space and opportunity, right? So we went to the park and play. And I noticed pretty quickly he couldn't stop me from going to the post. And that's all I needed to do to win the game. And after taking him to the post a few times, he laments, "Oh man, you keep doing the same thing, man. You can't beat me no other way. You can't shoot from the outside." Hey man, we're playing a game of basketball in which I'm going to win. So why would I not take advantage of my advantage? You can't stop me in the post. Why would I start doing something different now? That's what people say, overthinking. You start doing something different on the account of, oh, maybe. I see comedians do this all the time. Maybe they need a new set. They need new jokes. Yeah, they need some new jokes. They don't need all the new jokes. I go to open mics off the time. That's the time where, if you come in with a set like myself, who works regularly, I should be trying different material. I'm not going to come to the open mic and do what you're not going to do and nursery rhymes and all these jokes that I know without a shadow of a doubt works. I'm going to get up at the open mic and try out things. Now, you, as a fledgling comedian, a starting comedian, someone that's not doing it regularly, you should get up and do them same jokes over and over and over. And maybe you don't do it in the same order, but you do same jokes until you understand this is what works. But if you're not really certain of what works and now you done bounced over to something else, you don't have any consistency. So I say, exploit your strengths. Exploit your strengths. Simple. It's a simple thing. Exploit your strengths. Take advantage of your advantage. Again, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't develop your game and you should not add facets to your craft and the thing that you're working on. But the thing that you do well, keep doing that. Do that some more. Give me some more. If you make chicken and dumplings, you need to figure out how to make Cajun chicken and dumplings, barbecue chicken and dumplings, spicy chicken and dumplings. They're like, what? Like, keep giving it to them. And that's been the best advice of the day. Also, got a segment called Mind the Mic. There's a lot on my mind. That's so much on my mind. And I was telling a friend of mine, I think sometimes I like being angry. I like people getting me angry. So I had a scenario where, and let's say it like this, because I mean, I understand people are in different places, but if you are young, not even young, like if there's some area that you're trying, or somebody you're reaching out to that's more successful than you, someone that you deem to have a bigger platform than you, and I'm sure I've said this before. I'm sure this has been the best advice ever. Um, look at trying when you approach people, approach them from a place of value. And I'm gonna use myself an example. So when I was in Bristol, in my hotel room, there was a magazine, and I'm not gonna say whether or not the magazine came with me as I left, but there was a magazine. And in the magazine, they had an article laughing it up with Leanne Morgan. Now, if you don't know Leanne Morgan, she is a stand-up comedian. She has a special on Netflix. She's crushing it. She's touring, selling out all over. But Leanne Morgan's probably 58 years old. She's clean, out of Knoxville, Tennessee. So when I saw that, immediately I was like, yo, I would love to have an article in a magazine. So I read the article, I looked at the artist, the author. And I thought, okay, my initial thought is to send this person a DM or follow them on social media, which I did. Now, the rookie move is to follow this person and say, hey, I just read your article about Leanne Morgan in this magazine. Can you do one on me? That's the natural. That's what I really want to do. That's the like, hey, I saw this for this person. Can you do this for me? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that that's not a normal, natural feeling. What I'm telling you is don't do that. Don't do that. Stay away from that. If that's your inclination when you see something, hey, how can I get that for me? This is mine. I'm telling you, don't do that. Don't flip that and say, okay, what would be of value to this individual? Like what is something that I bring to the table? And I may say at some point, hey, I just read this article. It was incredible. If you're looking to feature any more comedians in the future that were in the military, married, been doing it, lived in the South, whatever, like giving them some parameters, making their work a little bit easier. That's the position. I had somebody recently reach out to me. They did something where included one of my jokes on a piece of work that they're doing. Great, thank you, appreciate it. But then they say, hey, I used the work, and hey, I want to get this out to more people. Now, this person doesn't have a following of any note, of any significance. And it's like, hey, you put this on your platform, I put this on my platform. Well, that's not a win-win, people. In the mind of Mike, man, I'm like, how can I make any involvement I'm in with folks a win-win? My pastor says help is not help unless it's the help you need. A lot of people come through and be like, man, I want to help you. But they want to help them. They don't want to help you. And it's a little exhausting. So I got a little frustrated. And what the person, because the person might be listening to podcasts. I don't want to lose a listener because they're a fan. Like, this is a person that really enjoys what I do. But the person sent me a thing, and they were sending me like DMs like from Wednesday, like every day. I open my joint. Hey, man, I don't know if you got a chance, check it out, but all the stuff. And it's basically what I call borrowing money energy, right? I don't know if you ever had anybody borrow money from you, but man, I've noticed this. And I try to get out of borrowing money scenario. If I give somebody money, hey man, that's your money. Hey, I give the amount of money that I don't need to get back, right? Or if we borrow it under some kind of parameters. However, I've noticed back, way back in the day when people would borrow money, man, their energy would be so like when they needed to get the money, man, I'll meet you here, I'll meet you there, I'll meet you anywhere. I'll meet you early, I'll meet you late, I'll meet you in the sky, I'll meet you in the pie, I'll meet you in the moon, I'll meet you on a broom. Like they will go Dr. Seuss for that money, man. They want that bread, right? When people are trying to borrow money, there's no obstacle that can get in the way of them getting money from you. As soon as you give those folks that money, though, like we say nowadays, why don't they keep that same energy, the same way you pestered? Hey, man, I just want to. Hey, I could meet you at your job. I could meet you at your lunch break. The same energy in which you requested the money. Where's that energy to return the money, to secure the money? Very urgent, very adamant. But to return the money, very distant, very aloof. Can't find you. Been around the world and I can't find my money. I don't know where, I don't know why. Where it's gone away and it's not the same, man. And that's the kind of energy this person was giving me when they were asking me to post and, hey, share this with your community and da-da-da. So I responded back. I said, look, basically, here's a synopsis. I respond back. I say, hey, look, man, I don't need, I'm busy. Because the person said in the thing, I know you're busy. And I'm like, hey, you right. I'm busy. Got a lot of things going on, a lot of things to do, a lot of stuff to focus on. So when people show up in my DMs and give me more things to do, I don't want to do that. And I basically was like, hey, in the future, when you're reaching out to folks, lead with value. Make sure that what you're offering is of equal value to what you're receiving, like a win-win. Hopefully, and I was like, I hope this resonates, man. I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this to be a jerk. I really want you to understand that there's a different way to conduct your business affairs. Crickets. Wasn't that same energy? Wasn't that, hey, man, thank you. Appreciate that. Man, I never looked at it like that. Not that same energy, man. Man finally came back and was like, well, I thought it was a win-win for us both because we both posted on. No, man, I got, and it's not about this, but if I got 70,000 followers and you got 100 followers, how is that equal? If I'm working diligently, adamantly, and I'm consistently, I've hired folks to work my social media. I'm doing lives and I'm doing podcasts, and I'm doing interviews, and I'm trying to extend my platform. How is me posting and you posting the same thing? Now, if it's something that like the Bristol Hotel, they don't have to say, Mike, win-win. It's a win. Like I went there, it was a win. I'm like, yo, man, hey, y'all have the opportunity to go there. This is good. Now, they don't ever have to post anything for me because that's not the nature of this relationship. I didn't, I went and I consumed the product. Oh. People think just because they created something, people should come and utilize it. And that's just not, is it good? If it's good, people will be talking about it. And then sometimes things are good. People just don't know about it to talk about it. So yeah, man, I feel like that's a double best advice ever. This is when I'm going a little bit longer now these days. I gotta put a plug in this right now. So what I'm not gonna do is keep this podcast roll. I'm gonna come back next week. Y'all know I come back. I'm consistent. You can see the track record. Look at check my records, baby. I'm out here podcasting. This used to be an idea. This was something I wanted to do. Now, even with the podcast, I had somebody recently like, how's it going? Is it doing what? I don't know how's it going. I hope people are listening. I want you to listen. And I want it to improve. If you have some ideas to improve my podcast, shoot them in. But I think I have a great product. I think I need to keep working at it, keep cultivating it. But I'm enjoying myself. So I'm not going to just shut it down because I've only had 60 listeners this month. I hadn't looked at the statistics. And I really hadn't figured out, okay, what's the goal that, the ultimate goal. I really wanted to, when I created this podcast, add some value. If you're doing some cardio, if you're on a ride, the commute to work, throw this thing in. You folding clothes. I would, if I wanted to do that. I wanted to give people something in between my social media and my live show. That's where I'm at. So maybe now it's time to reevaluate my goals and what I want out of the podcast. But what I created it for is what it's doing. Well, thank y'all so much for checking in. If you have any information, insights, just shoot me an email at info@comedianmikegoodwin.com. Like, subscribe, share. Let people know, hey man, I listen to this podcast. It's not the best podcast I listen to, but it's not the worst. It's like, it's up there. I enjoy it. It's cool. I think check it out. You don't have to give a glowing recommendation. Just recommendate. Just give a recommendation. Recommendate. I don't think recommendate's a word. Just give a recommendate. Just recommendate. Just give a recommendation. Well, thank y'all, man. I'll see you next week. Same bat channel, same bat place. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate it. Peace.